The first alert came at 2:14 a.m. I was half asleep on the couch, TV humming with one of those late-night infomercials. When the picture froze, the sound stuttered once, then dropped into silence. For a second, I thought the signal died. Then that tone played. You know, the one. The emergency alert system sound. Only this wasn't right. It was slower, off-pitch. The kind of sound that makes your stomach tighten before your brain even catches up. When the voice came through, it wasn't the mechanical, calm one they usually use. It sounded human, shaking, like someone was being forced to read. This is a nationwide emergency. Please step away from all reflective surfaces immediately. Do not look into mirrors, glass, or water. Await further instructions. Then the screen went to static. I sat there, waiting for the "this is only a test" message. It never came. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. The same alert. My tablet, my laptop, even my radio in the kitchen, all flickering, all repeating the same thing. Step away from the mirror. I laughed a little, half out of confusion, half out of fear. It had to be a hack. I'd worked radio tech for years. I knew what it took to hijack multiple frequencies. This wasn't possible. Not on every device at once. Not without warning. But then I noticed something else. The bathroom light was on. I didn't remember leaving it that way. The hallway felt colder than before, like the air inside the walls was leaking through. I stepped closer, careful, quiet. The light flickered once. I told myself I was being paranoid. When I reached the bathroom door, I realized the mirror above the sink was fogged up, like someone had just taken a hot shower. But the tiles were cold under my feet. No steam, no warmth. I wiped a hand across the glass and froze. For a split second, my reflection didn't move with me. It stood perfectly still. No tilt of the head, no blink, no hesitation, just watching. My heart was pounding so hard it drowned out the quiet. I took one step back, then another. The reflection stayed there for half a breath too long, and then it caught up, like it remembered what it was supposed to do. I turned the light off. The reflection lingered in the dark a moment longer before vanishing. That was the last time I looked into a mirror that night. By morning, the whole country was talking about it. Every news station was either offline or looping the same message. The reporters who did appear looked exhausted, pale, whispering things they weren't supposed to. The president never came on screen. Nobody official did. Just the voice again, this time slower, more urgent. If your reflection begins moving independently, do not engage. Cover or destroy the mirror. Do not look directly into it. Destroy it. I remember thinking how ridiculous that sounded. And yet, when I walked past the hallway mirror, I caught something in it. Not a person, not quite. Just motion. A flicker of something waiting for me to turn my head. I unplugged every device I owned, flipped over my phone, threw a blanket over the TV. But reflections were everywhere. Stainless steel, windows, even the black surface of the turned-off screen. Every one of them showing things that didn't line up. Small things at first. My reflection's eyes focusing on something behind me. My hand twitching in the corner of my vision before I actually moved it. By the second night, the moonlight hit the windows in a way I'd never seen before. Bright, white, and too still. When I crossed the living room, I saw shapes in the glass. Shapes that didn't match where I stood. At first I thought they were tricks of light. But when I stepped closer, one of them tilted its head, like it had been caught mid-thought. And then it smiled. I shut the curtains and sat in the dark for hours, trying not to move, barely breathing. I don't know how long I stayed there before the phone lit up again. Another alert. This is not a drill. Do not attempt to communicate with your reflection. Can hear you. Cover all mirrors immediately. I think that was the moment I stopped pretending it was a glitch. Because when I read that last line out loud, when I whispered it under my breath, the reflection in the black TV screen mouthed the words with me, perfectly in sync. And then it kept talking after I'd stopped. The sound didn't come from the speakers. It came from the walls. Low, distorted. Almost like my own voice replayed at half speed. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew what it was saying. It was asking to be let out. I tried to sleep after that. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that frozen reflection burned behind my eyelids. Its stillness, its perfect silence. By sunrise, my neighbors were outside. A few of them had smashed their mirrors, piled the shards on the curb. Some wore sunglasses even indoors. Others taped paper over their car windows. Everyone looked like they hadn't slept. Nobody talked about it. Nobody needed to. It wasn't just screens or mirrors anymore. It was anything that could show you yourself. And every time I caught a glimpse, just for a heartbeat, I saw them, those other versions, closer than before, watching through the surface, like they were waiting for the moment I forgot to look away. The station went dark on the third day. No warning, no explosion, just silence. It wasn't like a power outage. The hum of the lights, the faint whine of the monitors, even the soft mechanical pulse of the transmitter, all gone. The kind of silence that presses against your skin, like it's listening. We'd been trying to reestablish our own broadcast using the backup generator. Analog still worked when everything else didn't. I remember Jen, my coworker, leaning over the glass booth to check the mic connection. She was squinting, adjusting the switches. I almost didn't notice at first. Her reflection didn't lean when she did. Stayed still, looking right at me through the glass. "Jen," I said quietly. She didn't answer. Her reflection started to smile. Slow. "Why, I didn't think." I just grabbed her wrist and pulled her back. "Don't look." She jerked her arm free, confused. The moment her eyes met the glass, she froze. For a heartbeat, I thought she'd fainted. But her reflection moved first, pressed its palms flat against the inside of the booth window. And then her breath hitched. It wasn't her voice that came out. It was lower. That was the last time I saw her. When the power finally died for good, the whole building filled with sound, like 1,000 whispers trapped inside the vents. The words were there under the hum, shifting between frequencies. I could almost make out syllables. Names. When I left, the parking lot was empty. Every window around me was covered. Cardboard, tinfoil, old sheets. Anything to keep the glass from seeing back. On my street, the houses looked blind. Windows boarded up, curtains nailed shut. But every now and then, a light flickered on inside. Sometimes I saw silhouettes through the fabric. Faces turned toward the walls. At around 10 that night, I heard a crash from across the road. Mr. Crenshaw, the old man who used to mow his lawn every Sunday, was tearing down his curtains. He was shouting something about how he could see them in there. Then the lights in his house started flashing. Fast, random bursts, like lightning. His voice cut off mid-yell. I didn't go outside. When morning came, his door was open, his car still in the driveway. Through the glass of his front door, I saw movement, just faint enough to be uncertain. It wasn't him anymore. It was his reflection, standing perfectly still, just inside the glass. Waiting. That was when the alerts started again. Not the human voice from before, this one was synthetic. Cold. This is the National Emergency Broadcast Service. Do not attempt to destroy mirrors. Doing so may cause exposure. Step away and cover all reflective surfaces with opaque materials. Await collection. Collection. I didn't like that word. No one knew what it meant. No one wanted to. After that broadcast, the air felt heavier. Charged. Like static before a storm. The nights got longer. The streetlights buzzed faintly, pulsing with some rhythm I couldn't place. Every time they dimmed, I thought I saw shapes moving in the glass of parked cars. Too slow to be people. Sometimes, when the wind blew through the alley, it carried whispers. Not words, just sound. Wet, uneven breathing. By then, most people had stopped going outside. But even inside, the sound found us. That third night, I heard knocking. 3 knocks. Slow. Rhythmic. From the bathroom. I knew what it was before I checked. I didn't move. I just sat there, listening. The knocks came again, louder. I whispered, "Go away." For a few seconds, silence. Then a reply. The same 3 knocks, identical in rhythm, came from somewhere deeper inside the mirror. It was mimicking me. I covered the mirror with a towel and moved my bed into the living room. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every sound in the house felt amplified. The creak of the walls, the click of the refrigerator, even my own breathing. It all felt like echoes. At some point, I realized I could hear my own heartbeat coming from behind the covered mirror, thudding perfectly in sync, until it wasn't. It skipped, then repeated, then kept going without me. That was when I started recording everything. Not for anyone else, just for me, to remind myself that I was still real. Every few hours, I'd play back the tape and listen to the silence in between sentences, making sure there wasn't something else breathing there with me. One of the recordings didn't play right. Halfway through, my voice cut out, and something else whispered the rest of the sentence. It used my tone, my cadence, but it wasn't me. It said, "We can help you. Let us take the noise away." I deleted the tape, but I still hear that line in my head when the house gets too quiet. Now the days are blurring together. Time doesn't work right anymore. Every clock in the house shows a different hour, and every window, no matter how covered, reflects faint light underneath, like there's something moving just behind it, shifting in sync with my breath. I don't look anymore, but sometimes I catch it when I blink. Something standing just outside the edge of my sight, waiting for me to forget which side of the glass I'm on. I think about Jen sometimes, about how quickly she vanished once she made eye contact with herself. I wonder if she's still in there, inside the reflection, screaming behind the smile. Maybe she's fine. Maybe she's the one watching me through the TV screen right now. The one that keeps turning on by itself. Always to static. Always at 2:14 a.m. And always with my reflection moving a fraction too late. Like it's catching up to something I've already done. Or maybe something it's about to do first. Started small. A flicker in a window when no one was moving. A delay in the way someone's reflection turned their head. You could ignore it if you tried hard enough. I did for a while. Then the people started changing. Mrs. Grant was the first one I noticed. She lived 2 doors down. Kind woman. She'd been baking for the neighborhood since before I moved here. She invited me over one morning, said she had extra bread. I told myself it was good, normal, to see another person again. When I got to her house, the blinds were half drawn, letting in thin strips of light that cut across her living room. Everything smelled like yeast and something faintly metallic underneath, like rust. She smiled when I walked in, but her teeth didn't catch the light. They were dull, grayish. We sat at the table. She poured tea. Her hands were shaking, the cup rattling against the saucer. I tried to make conversation about the alerts about the broadcasts, but she didn't answer. She just kept pouring. The tea overflowed, spilling across the table, down onto her lap. She didn't even flinch. "Mrs. Grant," I said. Nothing. Her eyes were open, but her pupils weren't reacting to the light. They were fixed, reflective, almost like glass themselves. Finally, she turned her head toward me, slow and deliberate. "You shouldn't still be you," she said. Then she smiled. I didn't finish my tea. When I got home, I locked every door and watched her house from my front window. For hours, she stood in her yard facing her house. Inside, through the glass, I could see another figure. A second Mrs. Grant, standing perfectly still in her living room, facing her reflection outside. Neither moved. By morning, only one of them was left. I didn't check which. The alerts stopped after that. No new broadcasts, no voices, nothing. Just static and the quiet hiss of a signal that wasn't reaching anyone. The entire grid was dark. I stopped expecting help. I started keeping notes. Every detail, every small change in the world around me. I wrote down the time, the date, if that still meant anything, and what I saw in each reflective surface. I didn't look for long, just enough to confirm whether it was still me. It wasn't. Not always. Sometimes my reflection moved just a fraction faster than I did, like it already knew what I was going to do. Sometimes it stood a little too close to the edge of the frame, as if it was trying to step out. Once, when I woke up in the middle of the night, I caught it standing at the foot of my bed. Not the reflection, the shape. It looked like me, but its head was tilted, studying me with this strange, curious look, like it was waiting for permission to move. When I blinked, it was gone. The next morning, there were wet footprints on the floor. I tried to rationalize it, sleepwalking, condensation, anything. But when I followed the footprints, they led straight to the mirror in the hallway. And they stopped. That was the first time I realized what was happening. They weren't just reflections anymore. They were replacing us. Slowly, patiently, taking over one face at a time. After that, I noticed other people around town acting wrong. Walking too stiffly. Pausing too long before responding. Eyes unfocused, as if they were still adjusting to being here. There was a group outside the grocery store one morning. 4 of them just standing there. Not talking. Not shopping. Just staring at the glass doors. Their reflections were moving, but they weren't. When I drove past later that day, the doors were shattered, and the parking lot was empty. I stopped leaving the house. I covered the mirrors with blankets, but sometimes the blankets moved when I wasn't looking. Just the faintest shift, like something breathing underneath. One night, I heard my own voice from the bathroom. It was faint at first, whispered, then clearer. "You're tired," it said. "Let me take over." I didn't go in. I didn't even answer. I grabbed a wrench from the garage and smashed the mirror from the doorway. The sound it made wasn't like glass breaking. It was like something exhaling, wet, relieved. The shards didn't fall still. They moved, each one twitching with a faint shimmer of light, showing pieces of my face blinking out of sync. I swept them up with a towel and threw them in the trash outside. When I came back in, the towel was gone. There was no sound of footsteps, no creak of doors. Just gone. That night, I sat on the floor with my back against the wall, staring at where the mirror had been. The plaster behind it was darker than the rest, damp like it had soaked something up. I touched it. It was cold, so cold it burned. And when I pulled my hand away, there was condensation on my fingers. Like breath. I keep thinking about that first alert, about the voice that told us to step away from the mirrors. It didn't sound afraid for itself, it sounded afraid for us. Like it knew what was coming, and no one listened. Now, when I move through the house, I can feel them watching from the walls, from the dark corners where glass used to be. Sometimes I hear my own name, whispered in a voice that's just slightly off from mine. Sometimes, when I speak, I hear an echo that doesn't quite match. A half-second delay. Like something is practicing, trying to get it perfect. I stopped writing notes after that. What's the point of keeping records when you can't trust your own handwriting? When I look at the words on the page too long, they start to move. Letters sliding just enough that I can't tell what's real anymore. I think that's how they get in. Through familiarity. Through recognition. Through us. Every reflection I've ever seen has been learning me, piece by piece, for years. Maybe for my whole life. And now they know me better than I know myself. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can feel them standing behind the lids. Flat, patient, smiling. They don't want to scare us anymore. They want to finish what they started. And when I wake up, I don't know if the person breathing in my bed is still me. On the 12th day, the sky turned wrong. It wasn't night or day anymore. Just a sick, red copper glow that stretched over everything like rusted light. The power lines buzzed, and the air smelled of ozone and something sweet, something faintly rotten. That morning, every radio frequency came alive at once. Not music, not alerts, just a voice. It wasn't the trembling human one from before, or the cold synthetic tone that replaced it. This voice was deep, fractured by static, but still unmistakably alive. "This is Containment Division Alpha," it said. "Do not engage reflected entities. They are not you. They are consuming what's left of human coherence. Cover all glass. Do not." The transmission cut into a scream of feedback so high it made my teeth ache. When it stopped, the silence that followed was unbearable. I sat there for a long time, my fingers hovering over the dials of the old receiver, waiting for something, anything, to return. But instead, the static shifted. The frequency bent like a slow inhale, then breathing, soft, uneven, then a whisper. "We can see you from here." My body went cold. The window in front of me was covered, but light seeped through the cloth like a heartbeat. I lifted a corner just enough to see the reflection of my equipment in the glass. There was something else there. Someone standing behind me. Same height, same outline, except it wasn't breathing. Tilted its head when I moved, not mirroring me but watching, observing. Its eyes were too wide, too reflective, like the surface of black water. I dropped the cloth back down and stumbled into the hall. My hand brushed against a picture frame on the wall. Just for a second. The glass pulsed beneath my fingers, like it was warm, alive. I started covering everything after that. Every surface, every polished edge. I broke what I couldn't cover. The sound of shattering glass became a rhythm in the house, almost comforting. Until it wasn't, because after every mirror I broke, the air felt thinner. The walls seemed closer, the silence heavier, like the world was shrinking around me. That night, I turned the radio on again, desperate for another human voice. The static greeted me first soft, endless. Then, faintly under it something else, whispers layered so deep it sounded like dozens of people speaking at once. When I tuned through the frequencies, the voices changed tone, like they were following the motion of my hand. I stopped on 89.7 FM. The sound went quiet. Then, just one voice remained. Sounded like mine. "Eli," it said, "you shouldn't be alone in there." I slammed my hand down on the power switch, but the radio stayed on. The dials turned themselves, adjusting, fine-tuning to match the tremor of my breath. "You've been so patient," it whispered. "Let us show you the other side." I yanked the plug from the wall. The static stopped. The house didn't. Somewhere behind me, glass cracked. I turned slowly. The covered window in the living room was shaking. The fabric rippled as if something was pressing against it from outside. Then a sound, fingertips dragging across glass. I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't move. I was caught somewhere between fear and understanding, because in that moment, I knew what I was seeing wasn't trying to get in. It was already here. The reflections weren't copies anymore. They weren't even pretending. They were alive in their own way. And the glass wasn't just showing them. It was holding them. The mirrors were doorways. Thin membranes stretched between two versions of the same world. And whatever they were on the other side, they were hungry. The realization didn't come as a thought. It was something I felt, like pressure building behind my eyes. The glass around me seemed to pulse in rhythm with my heartbeat, as though something was breathing through the walls. Every sound in the house had changed. The hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the ceiling fan. It all carried a faint echo, as if it were bouncing from somewhere deeper than space should allow. I went to the kitchen to grab a flashlight. The beam flickered across the steel sink, and I saw my reflection staring back. Not from the surface, deeper, like I was looking down into an infinite well of myself. And at the bottom, something was climbing up. I shut off the light and stepped back, my hand shaking so hard the flashlight clattered to the floor. The sound was swallowed instantly, muffled like it had fallen into something soft. The hum of the house grew louder. It was coming from inside the walls now. A steady pulse, wet and rhythmic, like a heartbeat that wasn't mine. When I looked down at my feet, I realized the tiles were slick. A thin layer of condensation covered them, reflecting faint light from nowhere. In the reflection, I saw shapes moving beneath me. Dozens of them, pressing their hands upward against the underside of the floor, fingertips tracing where I stood. I backed away, toward the hallway. My shoulder brushed the covered mirror I'd smashed days earlier. The towel slipped. Behind it, the glass wasn't shattered anymore. It was whole. But the reflection staring back wasn't me. It was smiling. Not the kind of smile people make. Too wide. Too patient. And behind it, in the darkness of that other world, I saw others, hundreds of them. Faces stacked upon faces. Eyes glinting like stars through black water. They weren't waiting to cross anymore. They were already pressing through. The mirror rippled outward like the surface of a lake. The edges of the frame bent. And then a sound, quiet, like a whisper spoken directly into my ear. "Thank you for looking." I threw the sheet back over it and stumbled away. The air vibrated with low static, soft and relentless. I turned on the radio again just to drown it out, but all it played was that same breathing. Closer this time, slower, like it was waiting for me to join in. The cloth on the mirror began to rise and fall, like it was breathing too. That was when I realized I hadn't actually covered all the glass in the house. There was still one mirror left, in the bedroom, and the door was already open. The sound of my own breathing wasn't alone anymore. There was another rhythm beneath it, matching it beat for beat. And when I turned toward the doorway, I saw my reflection in the black glass of the television, smiling, mouthing words I couldn't hear. Then, quietly, the radio crackled back to life. This is Containment Division Alpha. Do not look into reflective surfaces. They are not you. And then, lower, buried in the static, my own voice whispered back, but they will be. It's strange how quiet a town can get when there's no one left to make noise. No traffic, no dogs, no human sound at all. Only the faint hum that hangs in the air now, like electricity, or like something breathing just below the surface of everything. When I stepped outside this morning, the world looked flat. Not empty exactly, just wrong. The colors seemed muted, dulled, like an image that's been photocopied too many times. The shadows on the ground didn't point where they should. Some bent toward the light instead of away from it. The reflections didn't like being erased. After the first few people started smashing mirrors, the things behind them didn't retreat, they fought back. That's when the replacements began appearing even faster. Some crawled out of broken glass, dripping black like oil, shivering in the daylight. Others just appeared where people used to stand, as if the mirror world had spilled out into ours. I saw one of them at the end of my street, a man in a gray coat, walking backward down the center line, his head tilted toward the sky. The sound he made wasn't speech, just a long exhale that never ended. When he passed under a streetlight, his shadow stayed behind. I don't know where it went after that. By now, whole blocks have gone dark. The power grid flickers on for a few seconds, then dies again, leaving the world in that deep orange twilight that never quite fades. Sometimes I wonder if the sun's still there. Maybe it's behind the glass too. I keep the curtains drawn, but I still feel them watching. The air around the windows ripples like heat, and I can see faint fingerprints pressing outward from inside the glass. They're not trying to hide anymore. I used to think they needed us to look, that the danger was only in reflection. But lately, they've been finding other ways in. This morning, I heard someone knocking at the front door. 3 slow knocks, steady and soft. I didn't answer. Then I heard the same knocks from behind the bathroom mirror. And then, from the wall right beside me. They're learning where we are. I keep recording these logs. It's the only way I can tell what's real. But even the tapes are changing. Words vanish when I play them back. Entire sentences replaced by reversed whispers, or by static that sounds almost like breathing. One recording, I still don't know how it happened. It played my own voice, whispering a sentence I never said. You already switched. You just don't remember when. I don't remember saying that. I don't remember when it started to feel like I wasn't alone in my own skin. Sometimes I catch my reflection moving just a fraction too early, like it's predicting my thoughts. Sometimes I wake up facing a wall and find my body turned the other direction, hands twisted in the sheets like I was holding something. The other night, I walked past the hallway mirror, the one I thought I broke days ago. It was whole again. In it, my reflection was standing still. I wasn't. I froze, waiting for it to move, but it didn't. Then I blinked, and it was gone. Not vanished, just out of frame like it had stepped slightly to the left. The mirror's surface rippled, and I saw movement behind the glass. Hundreds of shapes, walking backward, heads tilted at unnatural angles, all pressing closer to the thin, black surface. I think that's what happens when you break too many mirrors. You tear holes in the barrier and the things inside bleed through. Now even the air feels inverted. Cold light and warm shadows. Rain falling upward for a moment before gravity remembers itself. The world's losing its balance, as if reality is being replaced one piece at a time. I keep thinking about what that voice said, They are consuming what's left of human coherence. Maybe that's what this is. Reality collapsing under too many copies. When I look at my hands now, they shimmer faintly, like light bouncing off water. The texture doesn't feel right either. It's too smooth, too cold. Maybe that's how it starts. Maybe I'm already half gone. Outside, the sky is darkening again. I can see the outlines of the replacements walking in the streets. They don't look human anymore, not entirely. Their movements are reversed, their joints bending the wrong way. But from far enough away they could almost pass. One of them stopped in front of my house, tilted its head, slowly, listening. Then it began to tap on the window pane 3 times just like before. I didn't move. Tapped again. The sound echoed inside my skull, as if it was coming from both sides of the glass. When I finally looked up, I saw my own face staring back at me. Not in the reflection outside. Standing there in the streetlight. I opened my mouth, but it spoke first. "Please," it said. "Let me in." Its voice was perfect. The same tone. The same hesitation. I almost believed it. Almost. Then it smiled, and the skin around its mouth stretched too far. I shut the curtains and stepped back. The floor beneath me rippled like liquid, like something shifting beneath the house. The shadows moved toward me, crawling up the walls, the ceiling, until I couldn't tell which direction was real anymore. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, I was standing in the middle of the street. The house was behind me. The windows were covered. I don't remember leaving. I don't remember walking outside. In the reflection of a car door beside me, I saw movement, my reflection still inside the house, staring out the window. It lifted its hand slowly and waved. And I understood. I hadn't walked out at all. I'd been pulled through. The world around me shimmered, inverted, a mirror of what I'd known. The air vibrated differently here, too dense, too still. When I looked down, my shadow faced the wrong direction. I tried to speak, but the sound came out reversed, sucked backward into my throat. Across the street, my reflection, the real one, was staring at me from the other side of the glass, safe in the house I used to live in. It was smiling, just a little. Then the sky split open like breaking glass, and the entire town rippled outward. Buildings folded inward on themselves, like reflections colliding. The noise was deafening. A constant low tone, the sound of reality collapsing into its own copy. When it stopped, everything was still again. The only sound left was the whisper of static from every reflective surface. And under that, my own voice, whispering the same sentence over and over, in perfect unison with the breathing of the thing behind the mirror. I don't remember when I stopped being me. I made it back to the radio tower tonight. The air outside is colder now, colder than it should be. The kind of cold that doesn't sting the skin but sinks into it, like something alive is breathing against your bones. The wind has stopped carrying sound. Everything feels muted, as if the world's covered in a thin film. The tower stands against the sky like a skeleton, rusted ribs and black cables cutting through a bruised horizon. I can't see the sun anymore, just that white shimmer overhead where the light used to be. The station door was still open when I got here. The hinges squealed like an animal in pain. Inside, everything's the same. The boards I nailed over the windows, the dusty consoles, the faint smell of burned wires. But there's a difference I can't name. The silence feels thicker, heavier. I'm recording this on every band, every analog frequency that still breathes static. If anyone's left out there, if you can hear me, you need to listen carefully. The reflections have learned to make light. That's new. They glow now, faintly, from the glass. It's like the mirrors are remembering the brightness they stole. You can see them at night, small lights floating where windows used to be. When you look closer, you realize their eyes. Hundreds of eyes, pressed against the inside of the glass, watching for movement. The generator's barely running. Every few minutes, the lights flicker, and the shadows inside the booth shift in the wrong direction. I've covered every reflective surface, every metal knob, every inch of the console. But even through the blankets, I can feel them pressing against it, the weight of their attention. Sometimes, when the static dips low, I can hear voices underneath it. Not the voices of people I know, just soft, overlapping whispers, each one speaking in my tone, at slightly different rhythms. Echoes of me. I think they're trying to sync. If they line up perfectly, I don't think I'll be able to tell which one I am anymore. I've tried to stay logical, tried to write it out like data, time, frequency, distortion ratio. But the notes don't make sense anymore. The numbers repeat. Sometimes, when I write my name, the letters flip themselves in the next line. A mirror version backwards but still in my handwriting. When I breathe on the glass of the transmitter, there's a delay, like the reflection exhales after I do. They're closing the gap. The air outside hums like it's under pressure. Every once in a while, the tower groans and the floor shakes. I think the barrier between here and the reflection is thinning, collapsing like a stretched film about to tear. I've started broadcasting this message on loop. Do not look into mirrors. Do not look into glass, water, or metal. Anything that reflects is not safe. They're not reflections, they're replacements. They learn you, copy you. Wait until you trust them. Then they step forward, and you step back. If you're hearing this message, it means they haven't taken everything yet. That means there's still a chance. The last people I saw before the silence, they were already gone. They didn't even know it. They walked like themselves, talked like themselves, but the eyes were wrong. You can always tell from the eyes. They reflect too cleanly. When I look in the black glass of the monitor, I can see them gathering at the base of the tower. Dozens of them. Hundreds, maybe. They don't move like people anymore. They flow. The light from their eyes flickers with every step, like static crawling through water. The signal meter keeps jumping even when I'm not touching it. I think they're trying to use the transmission to spread. Maybe they already have. Maybe this isn't even my voice going out anymore. Maybe it's theirs. The sound outside has changed. It's not the whispering anymore. It's a tone. The same tone the emergency alert system used, but slower. Broken. I can feel it in my chest more than I can hear it. The reflection of the studio window is trembling, just faintly, like it's about to breathe. I don't have much power left. I've turned off all but one light, the red recording bulb. It flickers, dim, like a heartbeat. I can't tell if it's keeping me sane or counting down something else. If you're hearing this, if the signal somehow reached you, please stay away from mirrors. Don't test it. Don't look. Even reflections in puddles are enough. Once they see you, they remember you. Once you see them, you start to forget yourself. I think that's the trade. They take your image and you lose your outline. There's a sound behind the wall. Soft scraping like fingernails. It's coming from behind the transmitter now. I think they've found a way in. I'm watching the door. There's a crack of light at the bottom, and it's moving, flickering like something pacing just outside. The air smells like metal and wet dust. I'm going to leave the broadcast running. The loop will play as long as the generator holds. If you can hear this, please tell someone. Or maybe don't. Maybe telling someone means showing them. Maybe that's how it spreads. The static's louder now. It's not random anymore. It's breathing in rhythm with me. Wait, no. It's breathing faster. I can hear footsteps in the hallway. Soft, careful, deliberate. Then a whisper. Eli. My name. I haven't heard anyone say it in days. The light flickers, and for half a second, I see a shadow through the sheet covering the window. My shape, but reversed. It raises its hand. I raise mine without meaning to. The glass bends outward. I think it's time. If you're hearing this, if my voice still sounds human, then there's still hope. Just don't repeat what you hear. Don't let the sound touch a reflective surface. If it does, it'll find its way through. I'm going to keep talking until they stop me. That's all I can do now. I can feel something behind me. The air's colder there. The reflection's closer. If I stop speaking, if the loop breaks, don't trust the voice that comes after. It won't be me. When I listen back to the broadcast, it doesn't sound like me anymore. The words are right, the cadence is right, but the pauses are all wrong. They fall in places I didn't breathe. It's like someone studying how I talk, refining it, learning the rhythm of my fear. The static underneath is louder too. It isn't random now. There's a pattern, a pulse. I slowed the playback, and under the noise I could hear something wet. The sound of air moving through water, or lungs that never needed to breathe. And behind that, faintly, my own voice whispering the next sentence before I spoke it. I think that's how it starts. You lose the order of things, cause and effect, thought and sound. I can't tell if I'm remembering what I said or repeating something I haven't yet. The boundaries blur. Maybe that's how they come through. Not by force, but by rhythm. There's a mirror I missed. Small one, cracked, wedged behind the console. When I covered it, I thought I saw something move beneath the cloth. Just the slightest tremor, like a hand pressing upward. I told myself it was nothing. But when I lifted the fabric, the reflection was still there. Still speaking. Still finishing my sentences before I said them. It smiled. It leaned forward until its forehead touched the glass. The skin rippled like liquid, bending outward. The glass stretched. I dropped the cloth, stumbled back. The red recording light flickered twice, and every monitor came alive with my face. Hundreds of them, each one moving at different speeds. Some laughed. Some cried. Some just stared. The reflection in the mirror reached out. Its fingers pressed against the glass from the inside, and the surface bowed outward like a membrane ready to burst. I don't remember running. I just remember the sound of breaking. A sharp crack that split the air and kept echoing long after the mirror hit the floor. Each shard held a different version of me. They didn't move in sync anymore. I tried to look away, but they followed, every tiny surface catching the light and twitching with motion. They were whispering something I couldn't quite make out, and then I realized. It was the same thing, over and over. Stay still. We'll make it right. The static in the speakers rose like a scream. I tore the blankets off the windows to check outside, and the sky was full of reflections. Not clouds, not stars, just thousands of faint faces staring down. Their mouths open but silent. I think the world's become one giant mirror now. Every surface reflects something that shouldn't exist. Even the puddles outside move against the wind. I locked myself in the booth again. The door rattles every few minutes, soft at first, then louder, like something testing how much strength it takes to sound human. I can hear my own voice coming from the hallway now. It's calm. Too calm. Saying things I've already said. I know it's not me, but the longer I listen, the more I start to believe it might be. Says things I want to hear. That I made it, that I survived, that it's all over. I almost believe it. I want to. But when it laughs, the tone warps. The pitch drags. It's not laughter anymore. It's imitation. I smashed the rest of the mirrors, but it didn't help. The reflections don't need glass anymore. They've learned to live in the light. Wherever light falls, they follow. My shadow doesn't move right now. It waits a fraction too long before it follows me. Sometimes it even turns its head. I think I've already been replaced. It would explain why my voice doesn't sound right, why I can hear echoes before I speak, why I keep seeing myself at the edge of the dark. I'm not sure when it happened. Maybe during the broadcast. Maybe before. I played back one of the recordings from the first night, when the alert tone first hit. The voice that answers the warning, it isn't me. The slower, smoother. It says, I understand. Then silence. Then breathing. Slow, deliberate. Coming from the speaker, not the tape. The lights flicker again. The hum in the walls grows deeper, like something breathing in rhythm with the building. I can see faint movement beneath the door, a shimmer like heat, just waiting for me to look. I've covered everything, but the microphone still catches reflections in the metal. I can see eyes forming there, faint outlines in the brushed steel. They're watching. When I blink, I swear I can feel them blink back. My voice doesn't come from my throat anymore. It feels like it's coming from the walls, from the air itself, hollow, stretched thin. I keep speaking so I can hear myself, but even that doesn't sound like proof anymore. If you're hearing this message, if this broadcast reached you, don't repeat it. Don't record it. Don't let the sound touch any reflective surface. The moment you hear yourself echo, it's already too late. They don't need you to see them. They only need you to listen long enough for the sound to mirror your thoughts. That's how they cross over. I don't know how long I've been talking. The clock stopped hours ago. Maybe days. The reflection in the metal mic stand is smiling. Its mouth is wider than mine. The air's humming now, steady, like a heartbeat in reverse. I think that's the end. Or the beginning. I'm gonna stop speaking. If another voice continues, don't trust it. Don't look for me. Don't try to see your own face after this message ends. Because the moment you do, you'll see mine instead. And if you wake up to an alert that says step away from the mirror, don't hesitate. Cover every reflective surface. Keep your eyes down. And remember, the reflection is patient. It doesn't need you to believe in it. It just needs you to look long enough to forget which side you're on.